All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in once again to the original, or I'm sorry, to Queen Ahmadiyyah TV, More Than Meets the Third Eye. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah and this is your spiritual vitamins. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and like and share this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and be sure to click the notification bell so that you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, shout out to all of my Stardusters in the chat and everyone tuned into the Queen. Okay, so let's get into it, because yesterday we talked about the consequences of dabbling in black magic. Okay, and now today we're going to be talking about, I'm basically going to explain black magic to you, and we're going to talk about some of the myths, rituals, and the cultural significance of that it plays a role in. Okay, so with that all being said, let's get into it. Everybody, please hit that like button. Thank you. It's the least you can do. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so now the concept of black magic has long held a mystical and often ominous allure, evoking images of dark rituals, demonic invocations, and the pursuit of selfish or malevolent ends. Yet beyond the sensationalized portrayals in popular culture, the true nature of black magic is a complex and it's multifaceted, and it's a very multifaceted subject steeped in history, religion, and the evolution of esoteric practices. Okay, please pay attention. Now, in this comprehensive exploration, we're going to talk about the origins, the evolution, and modern perceptions of black magic, shedding light on its intricate relationship with the broader realms of magic, religion, and the occult. So let's talk about the origins of black magic, for starters. Now, the roots of black magic can be traced back to the earliest human civilizations, where the line between spiritual practices and the manipulation of supernatural forces were sometimes often blurred. In many ancient cultures, the concept of artes prohibitae, or artes magicae, which basically means prohibited arts. Artes prohibitae is Latin for prohibited arts. Okay, something that you shouldn't be engaging in. All right, or artes magique, which is the art of magic. Now, this emerged referring to a range of divination and ritual practices that were deemed forbidden or dangerous. These included practices such as necromancy, geomancy, and the invocation of demonic entities, which are often associated with the pursuit of personal gain or the infliction of harm upon others. Because you can rest assured, anybody who's dabbling in black magic, they're not using it to do anything good. It's always something nefarious, okay? And hence the term black magic, okay? Please pay attention. It's usually to do something to somebody that's an enemy, like we talked about on yesterday, okay? Now, well, let's talk about necromancy. Now, necromancy is the practice of communicating with the dead, okay? Especially in order to predict the future. So who engages in that we know of on YouTube? There's somebody very popular. Does anyone know who this person is? Please put the name in the chat. If anybody knows who this person is on social media, on YouTube specifically, that dabbles in necromancy, because they talk and communicate with the dead in order to get future predictions. Anyone have any idea? And this is a form of sorcery in black magic. Okay, some people don't know that. So nobody knows who it is. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. Sloan Bella. Okay, Sloan Bella. There you go. Sandra put her name in there. Sloan Bella. Because at the end of the day, she's always talking about, she talks to these spirits and all of that. And she uses this in order to predict the future. Now, the problem with that for me is that you don't know if you're really talking to spirits in the spiritual realm or if you're talking to demons. Okay? So that's why I don't dabble in that at the end of the day. And then they also mentioned geomancy. Now, what is geomancy? That's something that, that's even less spoken about. That's the art of prophecy from the pattern of, it's like when they take handfuls of dirt or earth and then they throw it in the air and it lands. Okay? Now, some people use this to try to predict certain things. They like cast it down. Okay, and also sometimes they'll take there'll be dots that are drawn at random, and then they're connected with lines, okay, to try to give them the information that they're seeking. Now, with that all being said, let's talk about the medieval and the Renaissance eras, black magic's persecution and evolution. And for those of you that missed it, when I talked about the Salem witch trials a long time ago, please go back and watch that video, because what some people don't know is that the people that were prosecuted in the Salem witch trials, some of those people were black. And in fact, the first person arrested for being a witch was a black or Caribbean slave woman. She was black. Her name was Tituba. Okay, so during the medieval and Renaissance periods, black magic faced intense scrutiny and persecution from the Christian church and its Inquisition. Now, and let me say this. Here's the thing. These people during the Salem witch trials that were accused of witchcraft, many of these people were not even witches, okay? They were not even witches. And Tituba, she was basically teaching the girls in the village how to tell their fortunes, like divination. Okay, so that to them, to the Puritans, that was black magic. Okay, so anyway, now during the medieval and Renaissance periods, black magic faced intense scrutiny and persecution from the Christian church and its Inquisition. Practices deemed as witchcraft or sorcery were often met with harsh punishments, including execution. Now, this did not deter the continued practice of black magic, which evolved and adapted to the changing social and religious landscapes. The emergence of natural magic, as championed by thinkers like Marsilio Ficino and Henry Cornelius Agrippa, provided a means for esoteric studies to flourish, albeit often in secret. So they did these things in private because they knew that they would be frowned upon and possibly executed if people knew what they were actually doing. Now, one of the most well-known and often misunderstood forms of black magic is voodoo, a syncretic religious tradition that originated in West Africa and spread throughout the Caribbean and the Americas. Now, while voodoo does involve the use of rituals, spells, and the invocation of spirits, it is often wrongly conflated with the notion of black magic. Okay, but in reality, voodoo practitioners make a distinction between white and black magic. You know, Hollywood, when they make these movies, they will often make it appear as if, voodoo is so nefarious. They'll show people making these voodoo dolls and doing all sorts of nefarious things. But that just depends on the person, as I told you before. This all pretends on the person, what their intentions are, okay? Because some people absolutely use it to harm others, to get back revenge, but some people use it for healing, for spiritual enlightenment and things like that. Let's not forget how it was in fact used during the Haitian Revolution so they could gain their freedom and independence, okay? Which is why Haiti is still frowned upon by the US till this day. Please pay attention. So voodoo practitioners make a distinction between white and black magic, with the former focused on healing and protection, and the latter on hexes and curses. Now, this blurring of boundaries between voodoo and black magic has contributed to the perpetration or the perception of harmful stereotypes and misconceptions. And then, black magic has become popular in popular culture. Okay, it's in lots of movies. They make all these different movies talking about magic, and all these things like that movie, The Craft and whatnot. The enduring fascination with black magic has led to its prominent presence in various forms of popular culture, from literature and film to television and video games. Now, while these depictions often sensationalize and exaggerate the realities of black magic, they have nonetheless played a significant role in shaping public perceptions and fueling the ongoing intrigue surrounding this esoteric practice. Okay, so please pay attention because they call it an esoteric practice. So, and it does have a lot of stereotypes around it, because they look at people who look like me and try to liken it to something nefarious, like the people who engage in Wicca and actually practice, just full on witchcraft or whatever. Now, and here's the thing, there are some witches who claim that they do what is called white magic and they don't do black magic or whatever. Now, I don't know exactly what they do because I'm not a witch. That's all I'm saying. But at the end of the day, I do know that there are supposedly thousands of people in the United States practicing witchcraft. And for them, it is a generational practice that they pass down from family to family, to generation. And how do I know this? Because a witch herself told me this. And also, you can do the research and find it, but I actually had a witch tell me this a few years ago when I sat down to talk to her. She told me and also told me some of the nefarious things that they do, but we'll save that for another time. Now, from the classic novels of Dennis Wheatley to the Harry Potter series and beyond, black magic has become a ubiquitous trope in the realm of fiction, captivating audiences and sparking discussions about the line between fantasy and reality. Now, in the contemporary landscape, the practice of black magic has evolved and it's also diversified, with practitioners adopting a range of approaches and philosophies. Now, while some still adhere to the traditional rituals and invocations associated with black magic, others have sought to redefine and reframe the concept, exploring the use of black magic for more benevolent or self-empowering purposes. This has led to the emergence of various subcultures and movements, such as the left-hand path and gray magic, which challenge the binary distinctions between white and black magic. And let me tell you something too. It is very dangerous to get caught up in black magic, of course, as we already know. But the thing is, even if, sometimes people feel like they're being haunted by a ghost, or they feel like there's demons attacking them, they're under some sort of spiritual attack, and they'll go to practitioners of black magic to get help. Very often, what these people will do is just string them along. They'll tell them to do certain things and act as though it's going to help them, and then tell them to come back to them in so many days. And before you know it, you spent up a whole bunch of money and nothing has gotten better. Okay, so a lot of people use this as a grift. Ethical considerations and controversies. Now, the practice of black magic, with its potential for harm and the manipulation of supernatural forces, has long been a source of ethical and philosophical debates. Critics have argued that black magic is inherently selfish and destructive, while proponents of it contend that it can be a tool for personal transformation and the attainment of power. Now, think about that. When we talk about not personal elevation, but the attainment of power. Well, here's the thing. People who want power will sometimes do anything to get it, no matter how nefarious. It's like the people in Hollywood and in the music industry who will indulge in human sacrifices to get fame and fortune. Okay, power comes along with that because with money comes power. So these people are willing to have someone that they care about pass away just so they can have power. Okay, so these debates have often intersected with broader discussions around the role of religion, the occult, and the nature of human agency and free will. Now, there's an intersection between black magic and religion. The relationship between black magic and religion is a complex and often contentious one. Now, in many belief systems, the invocation of a demonic or malevolent force or entity is strictly forbidden, with practitioners facing severe consequences. However, in some esoteric traditions, the line between white and black magic is not always clearly defined, and practitioners may engage in rituals and practices that incorporate elements of both. Now, this interplay between black magic and religion has led to ongoing debates and the emergence of diverse perspectives on the role of the supernatural in spiritual and religious contexts. And I want you all to think about this, because if you remember, when I was telling you all about Wig number 1, who was supposedly using my spiritual teachings and then incorporating it with black magic, you see, that's a little slick trick that people do, because then they can say that it's spirituality, that this is spiritual information. Okay? They don't tell you it's black magic, because if they told you in some cases, well, you wouldn't want to have anything to do with it. Okay? So sometimes they hide things under the guise of something else just to get you entrenched in it. It's just like with Anton LaVey when he founded the Church of Satan. He didn't tell people that worshiping Satan means that you're worshiping the devil and you're going to be dealing with malevolent spirits and entities. He didn't tell them that. He basically told them that Satanism, worshiping Satan, is like in self-enlightenment. Okay, like you're working on yourself or worshiping yourself. Because if he was just going around telling people that, we're going to worship the devil, we're going to conjure up demons, we're going to perform satanic rituals, they may not have been interested. But you see, the thing is, it's almost like grooming. Okay. In fact, it is a form of grooming. Okay, because you don't have to just groom people for sexual things. You can groom people for other things that you want them to do that they may not be into. So what he would do is tell these people, give them a false perception of what Satanism really was. And then once they get in and then they start listening to his teachings or whatever, now he gets them comfortable. Okay, now then later on down the line, the truth comes out. And by then, some people are also caught up in it, that they just go along with it. So the psychological theories and the allure of black magic, let's talk about that. Now, from a psychological perspective, the appeal of black magic can be attributed to a range of factors, including the human desire for control, the quest for power, and the fascination with the unknown. Theories such as the compensatory control model, That suggests that individuals who feel a lack of control in their lives may be drawn to the perceived certainty and agency offered by black magic practices. Because some people feel like they don't have control over things. Okay, they don't have control on who they're dating or how the relationship is going or how much money they're making. So these people, when they find out, if someone comes along and says, hey, I can help things to be better for you. I can help you to be in control of your life or turn things around. And then they start teaching them about black magic and teaching them about the rituals and practices, and people get caught up in that because they want power and control. But here's the thing. If you are into spirituality, if you're into spiritual practices like meditation, the art of visualization, those things work as well. And they're not nefarious. Those are things that the Most High has for us to know because we're spiritual beings living a human experience. Okay. And since we're spiritual beings, well, there's absolutely nothing wrong with us engaging in spiritual practices, even though some Christian people will tell you not to do certain things that pertain to spiritual practices. Now, the reason they're confused or feel that way in many cases is likely because people who are practitioners of black magic do some of the same things that we do in spiritual practices, like they work with stones and crystals. Okay, rather than affirmations, they do incantations. But the bottom line is, it's all about the intention because spirituality is about self-improvement. It's about evolving into your higher self. It's about raising your energy into a positive energy and being in a positive state of mind. While those who are using some of the same tools that you may be using, such as stones and crystals or things like that, well, their intentions are going to be the opposite. Okay? Because they're dabbling in the darkness of it. They're using it for nefarious purposes. And that's why I always tell people that anything that's meant for good can absolutely be meant for bad. Okay? It can be, or shall I say, it can be used for bad. It just depends on the individual, what that person is up to. Additionally, the thrill and sense of transgression associated with the taboo nature of black magic can contribute to its allure, particularly for those seeking to escape from the constraints of societal norms. Black magic encompasses a wide range of practices, each with its own unique history, methodology, and cultural context. These can range from the invocation of demons and spirits to the use of curses, hexes, and other forms of malevolent magic. Some practitioners may also engage in rituals and practices that blur the lines between black magic and other esoteric traditions. And see, that's what I'm talking about. They blur the lines because esoterics, that's all about spirituality. Okay? So they engage in these things and the lines become blurred, like I said, and that's because they're mixing the two. Okay, such as ceremonial magic, Satanism, or even certain forms of Wicca and witchcraft. They can implement spiritual practices into all of those things. So, and this is how some people become deceived because they think, oh, I'm just learning about spirituality. But no, you're really dabbling in the darkness. Okay, which is what I told you all I felt like Wig was trying to do with people that were coming to those webinars, which is why I ended up exposing her. Now, black magic and the law. So the legal status of black magic and its associated practices has been a subject of ongoing debate and controversy. In some jurisdictions, the use of black magic may be considered a criminal offense, particularly if it involves the infliction of harm or the violation of laws. However, the enforcement and prosecution of such cases can be complex, often relying on the interpretation of evidence and the establishment of clear causal links causal links between the practice of black magic and any resulting harm. Now, there are some cautionary tales and some risk associated with black magic, and we delved into that yesterday when I spoke about the consequences of using it. The practice of black magic is not without its risk, both for the practitioner and for those who may be affected by its use. Proponents of black magic often caution that the invocation of dark forces or the manipulation of spiritual supernatural energies can be unintended and potentially have devastating consequences. Now, these can range from psychological and emotional distress to even physical harm. And if you remember the video that I showed you yesterday with the man who was dabbling in black magic, and then he had that little doll that he was using to try to do something nefarious, clearly, and all the things that were happening in his house. But you also saw that sometimes you would see his head just get snatched back. Okay, like something was forcing him or holding his head down. So these things can produce physical harm because these are demons that you're dealing with. They can even take over your own body and have you doing things that they want you to do, right? While they're in control at the will. But it's your physical body that's carrying out the act. So listen, if they, for example, if a demonic entity enters someone's body and then has them going out committing a series of murders, like serial killing, for example. And I absolutely believe that serial killing is, in most cases, the work of demons. So when and if the person gets caught, the demon's not going to prison, the person is. Okay. That's why it's very, very dangerous to be dabbling in this stuff, because you can get these entities that are attached to you and then they can absolutely take over you. Specifically, if you're not a real spiritual person, you're not really in a good standing with the Most High, you're not really spiritual in tune, you're not operating in your higher self, they can absolutely have you doing all sorts of things that can ruin your life. And even the potential for spiritual or metaphysical repercussions that are not easily understood and mitigated. And see, that's the thing. If you don't understand spiritual or metaphysical practices, then you likely wouldn't even know that this has been incorporated into black magic. Or let me say it like this. If you don't really understand spiritual or metaphysical practices, then if someone is teaching you black magic under the guise that, hey, this is just spiritual esoteric knowledge, this is metaphysical, well, you wouldn't really know that if you don't understand the difference. You understand what I'm saying? And then they can have you thinking you're doing something that's perfectly harmless, but being very harmful all the while. And then you will have repercussions. Okay? So it's important to understand and have knowledge on these things. Now, evolving perspectives and practices. So as the world continues to evolve, the landscape of black magic is also undergoing a transformation. With the increasing accessibility of information and the emergence of new spiritual and esoteric movements, the perception and practice of black magic are likely to continue evolving. Some practitioners may seek to redefine and reframe black magic in more positive or empowering terms. Like, that's what I'm talking about, tricking you. It's the trickery of it all. Okay, while others may remain committed to the traditional rituals and invocations. But regardless of the path forward, the study and understanding of black magic will undoubtedly remain a subject of enduring fascination and scholarly inquiry. And here's the thing. People are often fascinated by the unknown. Some people know things may not be the right thing to do, but they just want to try it out anyway. Okay, Panther Strike says Jeffrey Dahmer comes to mind, Queen. Exactly. I think he was absolutely possessed by demons, many demons. Now think about it. Think about it, because he was not only murdering people, but he was cannibalizing them. That definitely reeks of demonic activity. Okay. And specifically the fact that they said he would watch that movie, The Exorcist, and then it would hype him up and he would go into this trance, and then right before he would kill his victims. And so what was that movie about? It was about demons, demonic energy, right? Or a demonic entity or multiple entities possessing someone. So I believe that's absolutely what was the case with him. Okay. And like I said, some people don't understand these things. They don't take it serious or whatever. And then some people try it just out of curiosity and get a shock when they find out, or they start having certain things to happen to them, like the guy that we saw in the video at the end of the day. And and something else too that's very dangerous is necromancy. Okay, dabbling, dealing with these trying to speak with the dead. That's real crazy to me because, like I said, and then the people that play the Ouija boards, conjuring spirits, you don't know what you're going to conjure up. Okay? You have no idea what you're going to conjure up at the end of the day. So please pay attention. Don't forget to like and share. Okay? And you know, the Bible speaks against these practices of necromancy and things like that, and witchcraft. These things are an abomination unto the Most High, and we're not supposed to be dealing in them. But you know, some people, you can't tell them anything. Okay? And another thing is some people practice necromancy spells. That's what some of these people do. I mean, they do all sorts of spells, but specifically, some of them practice necromancy spells, which manipulate the energies of life and death. Okay, and these spells can grant an extra reserve of life force, drain the life energy from another creature, okay, create the undead, or even bring the dead back to life. Now, think about that. Creating the undead through the use of necromancy spells, such as, you know, an inanimate dead, is not a good act. Of course, we should all know that. And only evil casters use these kind of spells, and they do this on a regular basis. Okay? These are people that we would consider witches and warlocks. And this is just all real crazy at the end of the day. If you all saw that movie, The Serpent and the Rainbow, they basically had this powder that they were using, and it was like making people appear as though they were dead, but they really weren't. And then these people would, you know, they would become like zombies. Okay? How many of you saw that? How many of you saw that movie, The Serpent and the Rainbow? That's an old movie, but it was really good. Let me see here. One's in the chat. None of you saw that movie? Okay, I see one person. That was a really good movie, The Serpent and the Rainbow. And like I said, it's an old movie, but really good. So the thing about necromancy is that, you know, people believe historically that it either enslaves the souls of the deceased and forces them to reanimate their own corpses under the necromancer's will, essentially turning the person into a prisoner in their own dead, rotting corpse, and sometimes forced to commit horrible acts upon the living, or summons minor fiendish shadowy spirits to reanimate the corpse of the dead instead, and then brings evil into the world to drive those bodies. Okay, like The Walking Dead. Just all so crazy at the end of the day. Okay, so I see some of you did see the movie. The Prince of Paraphernalia said, I think I'll watch it this afternoon. Okay. Yeah, it was really interesting. It was really interesting. And then, you know, the thing is, there's all sorts of black magic that people engage in, all sorts of things that people, you know, dabble in that's nefarious. And once they get a taste of it and see that it can give them power, or see that it can help them to control other people's lives, not just their own, but other people's, then they get really caught up in it. And, you know, they just, you know, can't stop. Okay. They just can't stop because it is in some ways a source of power. You know, in many fantasy settings, necromancy is powered by negative energy, which is seen as the opposite of life and creation, often associated with chaos, decay, and evil. It's clearly demons. And that's another thing. That's what demons smell like. They smell like decaying flesh and all sorts of, you know, vile things like feces and all of that, as I told you before. Now, necromancers often raise undead creatures to serve their will, which can be seen as a form of enslavement and control over the dead, further solidifying the perception of evil. The practice of necromancy is often depicted as having a corrupting influence on the caster, potentially leading to the loss of their humanity or soul. Now, in some historical and religious contexts, Necromancy was associated with the demonic practices, and it was in fact condemned as a form of blasphemy, which is exactly what it is. Okay. And they say raising the dead as mindless, violent creatures is considered a cruel and effective form of psychological warfare, which further contributes to the perception of necromancy as evil. So when you have people sitting here telling you that they're talking to the dead, they don't know who they're talking to. Okay? They don't know who they're talking to. And it's disrespectful anyway to be talking to the dead, because the dead are supposed to be at rest, are they not? But many cultures have strong taboos and beliefs about the sanctity of the dead. And they say necromancy directly violates these by manipulating courses and potentially disrupting the natural order of death and the afterlife. Okay, so with that all being said, hold on, let me take this off the screen. Okay, so with that all being said, this is nothing to play with. Okay, it is nothing to play with, because all it takes is one time. All it takes is one time. For those people that are so curious, remember, curiosity killed the cat. Okay, where do you think that came from? Okay, people sometimes think, well, I'm just going to try it. I just want to see how it works. It only takes that one time for you to play with a Ouija board and conjure up something that you cannot get rid of. Okay, or for you to do some sort of ritualistic practice, all right, with using dark magic to try to make something go your way. Okay, and also, some people like to use it for things like trying to cast a love spell, trying to get someone, to want to be in a relationship with them or things like that. They're disrupting the natural order, okay, of life. And also, you're taking away someone's free will, because the Most High gives us all free will. Now, when someone starts casting spells with dark magic, trying to make someone else feel a certain way or act a certain way or whatever, well, that's not free will. Okay, so that's absolutely something that you're not supposed to be doing. All right, Reggie says, don't make any contracts with demons. Exactly, because that's the thing. You see, demons can't just start randomly attacking you. There has to be something that was done to give that demon permission to harass and attack you. Okay, like doing certain things, like I've told you all before, dabbling in things like necromancy for one, Ouija boards for two, having an addiction to corn with a P. Okay. Yeah, those sorts of things are abominations unto God. Cannibalism. All right. And here's what I think. Now, this could just be me, but what I think is, when I read stuff, because I do a lot of research, when I read things about how there has been allegations in the past over a decade ago, and I do have a video of someone admitting to this. I'm not going to play it on here. Maybe I'll put it on Rumble at some point. But when I read things about people that claim that they engage in cannibalism, and then they say that they take the flesh of humans and send it to some of these fast food chains, one in particular, I'm not going to say the name of it, okay, but it starts with the letter M. But they say that they send these things to those places, right? And then so I'm saying to myself, if somebody wants to engage in cannibalism, why would you send human flesh to places that serve food for that to be incorporated into the food? That's disgusting for one, but it seems to me that they're unwittingly trying to make people that are just regular everyday people, engage in their satanic practices without them even knowing it. Okay? Without them even knowing it. Reggie said he just heard that yesterday. Really? Yeah, I heard this like so many years ago. There was a rabbi who came out and exposed it on YouTube. That video is no longer on here, but I do have that video. Okay. He didn't show his face, but he was interviewed and he said some things that I thought were ghastly. So, I asked myself, why would they be doing this? Because it seems to me that, like I said, they want other people to be engaging in satanic rituals, because that's what that is. When you're cannibalizing someone, that is a satanic ritual. Okay. And it's just really disgusting when you think about it. All right. But not just that, when you think about these people that, when they talk about putting pork in certain things. Now think about this. Pigs are unclean. We're not supposed to eat of the swine. It tells us that in the Bible, right? And then remember how there was the demons were cast out and they went into the pigs, into the swine, and then the pigs swam or they ran out into the ocean and drowned. Okay, so pork is unclean. We're not supposed to be consuming it. I know some of y'all probably had bacon this morning for your breakfast. Shame on you if in 2025 you're still eating pork. Okay, I'm not judging you. I'm just saying shame on you. But here's the thing that I find interesting. When you look up certain things, you look up, do research on certain things like gummy bears that you feed your children. Okay, you let your children snack on gummy bears, gummy worms, and all those jelly-like candies. Those things have pork in them. Now, why would they need to put pork in that? Doritos and things like that have pork in them. The Oreo cookies, the white cream in the middle, supposedly has pork in it. Now, you ask yourself, why do they need to put pork in that stuff? What if you're somebody who doesn't eat pork? Okay. What if you're somebody who doesn't even eat meat, let alone not just eating pork? And then so you're munching on Doritos or you're snacking on gummy bears or you give them to your kids. Why would they put pork in that? Well, here's a very good assessment, in my opinion. I think they do it because, for one, pork is low vibrational. Okay, pork is low vibrational. I really think all meat is low vibrational because they murder the animals. Okay, and when they kill the animals, what are those animals going through before they die, before they're killed, or as they're being killed? It's got to be low vibrational, right? But specifically pork. Why would they put that in things that you would think they don't have a reason to really do so, or there's no need for it? Because to me, they want everyone to be low vibrational because that's what it does. It lowers the vibration. They also want to, in my opinion, calcify the pineal gland. The pineal gland is how we become enlightened, how we become awakened, how we start to rise into our higher selves and start knowing things that we didn't know before, how we start seeing beyond the veil. They don't want a bunch of woke people walking around here. And just think about it. If you're giving pork to your children when they're little, letting them eat these candies and you don't know that it has pork in it, then it's already starting at an early age to start calcifying the pineal glands. Okay? So just think about that and it's also just nefarious to me anyway. Okay, to be putting it in these things that people don't even know that it's in there. Nessa G said, I stopped eating Doritos and Oreos for years now. I used to love them. Yeah, I'm sure we all did. Okay. Ray said, I told her the Jesus of the pig parable. Right. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast, but listen, you know that old saying, you are what you eat? So if you're eating pork, what are you? Whether you know you're eating it or not, just think about that. Okay? What are you? Are you a pig? Do you have the temperament as a pig? Okay? Pigs are gluttonous, they're filthy, nasty. Okay? Is your house clean? Is your car clean? I'm just saying. Are you somebody that's greedy and selfish? Those are the characteristics of pigs. All right. So if you find yourself being any of those things that I just mentioned and you do eat pork, maybe you want to stop. I'm just saying. And if any of those things that I mentioned that they put pork in that you didn't know about, well, now you know. So there's no excuse. Nessie X says, so true, Queen. Thank you, beloved. Okay. Jarnell said, y'all, Florida toothpaste has pork in it. Pork in toothpaste is diabolical. You mean to tell me they're putting pork in toothpaste? Let me tell you something. At the end of the day, I use fluoride-free toothpaste. I use an herbal toothpaste. Okay, it's got like neem oil in it and things like that. And it works very well. And at the end of the day, I don't have to worry about, if it's going to make me develop Alzheimer's as I go, get older in age, or if it's going to be calcified by pineal gland or anything like that. Okay, so if you can, you should be using fluoride-free toothpaste, and that will definitely not have any pork in it. Okay, this is all crazy. I didn't even know they were putting pork in the toothpaste. That's just diabolical at the end of the day. All right, that is absolutely nefarious. Okay, so with that all being said, Rachel says, I use one toothpaste, non-toxic, organic, free cinnamon. Okay, absolutely. D Major said, I think your teeth need fluoride from time to time. D Major, who told you that besides the dentist? They'll tell you that, but why do your teeth need fluoride? Why do your teeth need fluoride from time to time? If you're brushing your teeth on a regular basis, okay, and flossing and taking care of your gums, not eating hard candies or a bunch of sweets, I don't see why your teeth would need fluoride. Okay, and if you're refraining from acidic drinks that break down the enamel on your teeth, you should not really need fluoride. I don't think you need fluoride. I don't have fluoride on my teeth at all. Now, here's the thing, and I want you to think about this. When we were kids, and I told you all this before, I'm sure, when we were children, some of you may have had white specks develop on your teeth for a time, and then they went away. You may have seen those white specks in your fingernails. Once in the chat, if any of you have ever seen that, remember ever seeing that when you were a child, white specks on your teeth and nails. Once in the chat, if you ever saw that, because I'm going to tell you what that is. That comes from a buildup of fluoride in the body. Okay, that comes from a buildup of fluoride. Too much fluoride in the body will cause like these white specks on your teeth as well as on your fingernails. See, a lot of you are putting ones, okay? Rachel said, I've seen it but never had it. Well, I had it as a kid. I specifically remember seeing it on my teeth, and I saw it on my fingernails too. And at the time, I didn't know what it was. My mother didn't know what it was. Okay. And then when she took me to the dentist said, oh, well, that's natural. That's normal. No, it's not normal. Okay. It's absolutely not normal. All right. Hold on. The enlightened kid said, I had a dental hygienist tell me they know fluoride is bad, but we have to use it due to FDA regulations. Yes, they will. They do know that it's bad. And let me tell you something. This lady almost got into a fight with me one time when I went to the dentist. I was like, really not physical, but a big debate. She kept telling me after she cleaned my teeth, she was like, okay, so I'm going to give you a fluoride treatment. And I'm like, I don't want a fluoride treatment. And she was like, but yeah, you need it because, you need the fluoride treatment and this and that. And she starts explaining. And I said, ma'am, I don't want a fluoride treatment. Okay. I don't use fluoride and I don't want a fluoride treatment. But she kept being so insistent that I literally had to just go in on her. I said, lady, I'm paying for this. And I'm telling you, I don't want fluoride on my teeth, period. They'll try to talk you into it. It's like she was trying to bully me into doing it. I'm like, dang, is the FDA giving you like a kickback or something? Because she was really adamant trying to make me do it. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry, but I want my pineal gland to be working. Okay. I want it to be working properly. Now, I was trying to go to this comment that I saw. I think it was POP put in here. Yeah, it says, Queen, I'm a sucker for blue and green Jolly Ranchers and in a cold can of Coke. Honey, let me tell you something. POP, beloved. You did not just say a sucker. You're a sucker for blue and green Jolly Ranchers and a cold can of Coke. Okay, first of all, let's talk about that for a second. Jolly Ranchers. See, I used to eat those when I was little every now and then. I never was a fan of hard candy when I was even a kid. Never was really crazy about it. Now, I would eat it sometime from time to time, but I wasn't crazy about it like a lot of kids. But Jolly Ranchers, think about it. When you're sucking on those things and then it gets really, really small and it gets caught down in your teeth, yeah, that's a breeding ground for cavities. Second of all, you're talking about a cold Coke. Here's the thing. My car wouldn't start one time years ago, okay? And I went out and looked, and the battery had all this corrosion around it. Yeah. And so I went and took a can of Coke because somebody told me to do this. They said, well, do you have any Coke? And I took the can of Coke and poured it on the acid on the battery and watched it just dissolve. Then I took an old toothbrush and scrubbed around it till all the rust and corrosion was gone. I did that with a can of Coke. So here's what you should ask yourself, beloved, no matter how good it tastes. If a can of Coke does that to the acid and corrosion on a car battery, what do you think it's doing to your stomach? What do you think it's doing to your esophagus? perhaps destroying the lining over a period of time. Okay, what do you think it's doing to you? I don't want anything, I don't want to consume anything that can do that to acids and corrosion on a car battery. Now, here's the thing. Sodas, well, they all taste good, right? Sodas taste good. So does Kool-Aid, which has so much sugar that my teeth start to hurt just thinking about it. But all of this stuff tastes good because that's why they make it like that. They put all kinds of chemicals in to make it taste good. So just because we like the way something tastes, does that mean that we should be consuming it? See, this is why you have to have discipline. Okay, you have to have discipline because there's a lot of things that I see that I know they look good, and I also know that they taste good because I used to eat them or drink them years ago. But at the end of the day, now that I'm wiser and I know these things are not good for me, and I know what they can cause, the potential risk and harms they can cause to the body, and they can also lower the vibrations, disrupt the pineal gland, okay, and all of that. I don't want any of those things. And now I'm not even tempted. You have to get yourself to the mindset of looking at those things and seeing them for what they really are, not for how they taste. When I look at a can of soda, it looks like a can of chemicals to me that could potentially kill me if I drink enough of them. That's what I look at, and that's what I see. So I'm not ever tempted. I don't bring sodas into my house. I don't buy them. I don't drink them, period. Okay? I don't drink them, period. POP said, I'm working on my self-control. I started lacking when Juanita passed. I get it, beloved. I get it, but you have to be very diligent, okay? Reggie says, I have gout and high fructose corn is my enemy. Ooh, let me tell you something about high fructose corn. Okay, now Reggie, hopefully this will get you to stop taking it, or help you to stop, dealing with things like sodas and other things that have high fructose in it. Now, do you all remember on the other channel I told you one time that this is all crazy because we were literally just talking about black magic, and now we're on a whole nother subject. Please pay attention. But listen, do you all remember I told you on the other channel that one day Reno made these banana pancakes, and then when I put the syrup on them, it was that pearl milling syrup. No, I'm sorry. No, it wasn't. It was Mrs. Buttersworth. Okay, it was the Mrs. Buttersworth syrup. I poured that syrup on there, and then when I taste the pancakes, the syrup smelled like some sort of bug spray. It smelled like bug spray, and it tasted like bug spray, because whatever something smells like is how it's going to taste to you, right? It's not that I've ever tasted bug spray, but I've clearly smelled it before. So I was like, what is going on with this syrup? I thought maybe it was a defective bottle, maybe it was old or something like that. But when I did the research, you know why it smelled like that and tasted like that? Because of the high levels of fructose in there. Okay? The high levels of fructose in there, and the chemicals, and some of the chemicals that they use. Now, are those the same chemicals that they're using in bug spray? I think so, because it smells almost exactly the same. Reggie says he switched to real maple syrup. That's what I use, 100% real maple syrup, or agave, or honey in the raw. Okay, so please make healthier choices and better choices. DJ Major, or D Major, says you need real syrup. Yes, that's the best. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, I'm out of here. I hope you all enjoyed the broadcast and got something from it. Okay, I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this day. Don't forget that I'll be back on the main channel later so we can talk about what's going down with Trump and Elon. Okay, so each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. All right, thank you. We next AK DSB for being a member. Okay, it's your anniversary, 6 months. All right. So with that all been said, I love you all to life. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Until next time, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.